While we're learning about JavaScript strings, we created a simple character counter app. Let's see how it works first. When the page loads, a dialog box appears with the message, "Enter your text here." The user can type words, phrases, or even sentences. For example, I type, if I click OK, the program will capture what I typed, find out how many characters in it, structure a short message using h1 tags, and finally, insert the message into our HTML page. I click OK. The final message looks like this. Now the question is, what exactly happens if the user doesn't type anything? For example, I refresh the page, and in the prompt dialog, I'll click OK without typing anything. When that happens, the final message looks like this. Notice the empty spaces where the text that user typed is supposed to display. For me, this is not a good user experience. Ideally, we need to make sure that the user typed something before displaying the final message. As a programmer, we always encounter times when our program has to react intelligently to different types of user inputs. In our character counter app, it would be a good idea to first check if user typed something or not. If user typed something, then display the final message. If not, then display the reminder message like, "Please make sure to enter some text." That's just one example. There are many times in programming where you'll need to make a program behave differently based on different conditions. For example, when we sign up for an application, if we type a password that has less than 8 characters, the program should display the reminder message like, "The password must have at least 8 characters." But the reminder message should disappear as soon as we type at least 8 or more characters. We can actually change what our program does by adding decision making to it. Adding a decision making process to our program can be done by using what are called conditional statements. A conditional statement can be as simple as, if this is true, then do that. For example, in our character counter app, if user types something, then we display the final message. Now we are going to learn and practice conditional statements by building a simple program that asks a question and collect an answer. To code along with me, first download the course folder from the link in the description below, unzip it, and open it with your favorite code editor. Here I'm using Visual Studio Code. From the course folder, open the exercise folder called JavaScript Conditional Statements. And then open the index.html file using Google Chrome. Here I also open the JavaScript console. In the index.html file, remember to link if-else.js file. First, we'll ask a question and get a response from a user. In if-else.js file, I'll start by creating a variable named capital of Finland to store the value returned by a prompt dialog that asks, "What is the capital of Finland?" Next, I'll add the basic structure for a conditional statement. Conditional statements begin with if keyword. Just like new variables begin with the const or let keyword. After if comes a set of parentheses. Inside the parentheses, we can put the condition. The condition is a test and its value is either true or false. Then comes a set of curly braces. Inside the curly braces, we put the code that runs only if the condition is true. In this case, I'll just display a message in the console. The pair of curly braces create what's called code block that can hold one or more JavaScript statements. And notice that, unlike most other statements we have learned so far, there's no semicolon at the end of a conditional statement. Now, let's write the actual condition. This condition is a test. It asks if the value that's stored inside the variable named capital of Finland is equal to the string Helsinki. In other words, it checks if the user typed the word Helsinki in the prompt dialog box or not. This triple equal sign here is called strict equality operator, and it's used to test if two values are exactly the same or not, which means that they have the same sequence of characters as well as the same length. If they are the same, then the condition is true, so that the code inside the curly braces will be executed. In this case, if the user answers the question correctly, then display the message great in the console. Alright, let's try it. I'll save the change. Refresh the page. The prompt dialog appears. I'll type Helsinki as an answer. Click OK. And in the console, I see the message. Now let's see what happens if I type the wrong city name. I'll refresh the page. And this time I'll type Oslo. Click OK. And nothing happened. And that's because the answer is not equal to Helsinki. It makes our condition false, and the code inside this block runs only if the condition is true. So this is exactly as expected. Conditional statements let us control the flow of a program. That is, which code actually runs and when. In this example, when the condition is true, the program follows one path and displays the message great in the console. However, if the answer is wrong, then it does not execute the console.log method. In either case, after the conditional statement, the program continues and runs any code that follows. We can also provide the code that runs only if the condition is false. This is called an else clause. It's optional, but it's often used as a fallback for the case when a condition is not true. I can add else clause to a conditional statement like this. The code we want to run if the condition is not true goes inside the pair of curly braces following the keyword else. The curly braces form another code block, and there's no semicolon after them either. Inside this code block, I'll display the message not correct in the console. Let's see what this does. I'll save the change, refresh the page. The prompt dialog appears. I'll type Oslo, click OK. And the message not correct displays in the console. I'll refresh the page. The prompt dialog appears. I'll type the correct answer. Click OK. And I can see the message great in the console. Good. So now there's one response if you type the correct answer and another if you type the wrong answer. Only one message appears and it's entirely dependent on what happens with the condition. Now, let's look at the basic structure of a conditional statement that includes an else clause. In programming, we call this an if-else statement. The two sets of curly braces create two code blocks. We can think of them as two different options for what to do. Option number 1 and option number 2. With an if-else statement, we can only ever go with one of the two options, never both. The condition, or what's inside the parentheses, determines which code the program will run or which option to go with. The condition is either true or false. If it's true, then the program goes with option number 1. If the condition is false, then it's option number 2. And it's always one of the options. Once the conditional statement is finished, the program continues. Finally, let's look at one problem with our question and answer program. I'll refresh the page. This time I'll type Helsinki with all lowercase letters. Click OK. Notice what happened. The program thinks that I answered the question wrong, and strictly speaking, I did. To computers, H in lowercase is not the same as H in uppercase, so Helsinki in all lowercase letters isn't equal to Helsinki with an uppercase H. Fortunately, we can get around that using a string method we learned about earlier. The toUpperCase method takes a string and converts all of the letters to uppercase. So we can apply that method to what the user typed like this. In this case, we also need to modify the case of the string we are testing to all uppercase. Now, even if you type Helsinki in all lowercase, the condition passes and the message great displays in the console. I'll save the change. Refresh the page. I'll type Helsinki in all lowercase. Click OK. As you can see, the message grid displays in the console. I'll refresh the page. And this time I type Helsinki in both lower and uppercase letters. Click OK. OK, it works. The message grid still displays in the console. As we just learned, conditional statements can make a program act differently depending on the circumstances in the program. The value a user types into a form, for example, could affect how the program runs. Conditional statements make our program more flexible and more interesting. Up next, I'll teach you more about how to test for different conditions using different JavaScript comparison operators.